Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. May all be happy, may all be free from diseases, may all see only goodness everywhere, may no one suffer from misery. I add another prayer. Sarve sadbhavam apnotu. May all have right thinking. May God bless us all. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So good morning, friends. The subject of my talk this morning is overcoming obstacles in spiritual life. This is a very important topic. I can discuss many things during this talk. In spiritual life, we need a teacher. Just as we need teachers for everything that we have to learn. In regard to spiritual life also, we need a proper teacher. There are so many so-called teachers who are not fit to be teachers. These are called false teachers, false prophets. Jesus Christ, who was a divine incarnation, he used to say, beware of false prophets. There are so many prophets who are false, they are not real prophets. So we should be careful about them. I encountered some of them in my own life also. As a young man, I had many questions in my mind. Some of them are spiritual questions. So that's why I would sometimes go to see some spiritual teachers. But I never wanted to be their students, because I didn't think that they appealed to me as my teachers. I have seen people who had spiritual teachers, but the teachers were not proper teachers. That's why the students also were not helped. I had a friend, boyhood friend. His name was Junu. When he grew up as a young man, he became a professional photographer. In those days, photography was not everybody's occupation. Now that all these cell phones are there, with the help of that people take pictures. But in those days, you had to go to a photography shop where professional photographers were there, and they would take pictures. And they would turn out to be good pictures, of course. So Junu did not study much. After his high school, he became a professional photographer. And he turned out to be a fairly good one. I knew him for many years. He was my boyhood friend, so to say. But he was unfortunate in one area. His mother became mentally ill and she had to be institutionalized. She had to be sent to a mental institution where she would stay and get treatment, whatever treatment was available in those days. One day Jhunu told me, and he would call me Jyoti, because that was my pre-monastic name. Jyoti, I have got a teacher. He has taught me some spiritual practice, like pranayama, etc. As a result of this, I have some special powers now. And unfortunately, he had gone to a false teacher. He did not know the dangers associated with pranayama also. Nevertheless, he practiced that, and then after a brief while, he thought that he had acquired some of those occult powers which come to a spiritual aspirant after many years of spiritual practice. He thought that he could hear people talking about him 1 mile away and so on. This is called Durashravanam. But he had not done enough spiritual practice to have any of those powers. So one day he said to me, Jyoti, I can hear what people say about me, even a few miles away. Then I got a little worried. I knew that his mother was mentally ill, so I became a little afraid, thinking that perhaps he is having that mental illness. But I didn't say anything to him. After many years, at that time I had become a monk and I had come to this country also. The order sent me to serve God's children in this country. Then I got the opportunity to go back to India, and a brother monk was at that time in charge of the center of the Ramakrishna Order in my birthplace, which is Shillong, up on the mountains, 1 mile high city. Jhunu lived there. So a friend of mine, Swami Raghunathananda, he was made the head of that Vedanta center or Ramakrishna mission ashramas, such centers as they called. So he was the head of that ashrama in Shillong. He wanted me to visit Shillong because he knew that I had grown up in Shillong. And I had joined that center as a novitiate monk also. He knew that. So I went there. And while there, I saw one day, where I was walking down a hill, I saw one very strange looking person with unkempt beard and hair and coming toward me. And strangely, that person addressed me by my first name, Jyoti. Hello Jyoti, how are you? I was surprised. Then I recognized that it was that Jhunu who had become like that. He had become mentally ill. And all those so-called spiritual experiences which he had, they were not real spiritual experiences. So these are some obstacles which come along the path of spirituality. This is one of them. Then some people suffer from obsession about maintaining physical purity, etc. That is seen in India. Mainly those who are called Vaishnavas. When, as a young man, I got to know one such holy man who was a Vaishnava. So I went to him a few times. He had some disciples also. But I didn't want to be his disciple. I went to him for a few times. And there I met many devotees who are Vaishnavas. And they are very particular about keeping their bodies pure by taking showers. They try to make their bodies pure by taking showers. I didn't have such obsession at that time. But I saw that they were obsessed with that idea. Some of them would take 3 showers every day, 3 times to make their bodies pure. At that time my thought was, what is the use of taking such showers? We can never make our bodies pure. And those who would believe making their bodies pure by taking showers, they wanted to get rid of some impure stuff which might have touched their bodies. And that stuff was still clinging to their body most probably. Such as the remnant of food taken by somebody, that is called uchishta. Some of these people who are obsessed with the idea of physical purity, they would think this uchishta was impure. So one should go on rinsing one's hand after eating, because in India people would eat with their hands, not spoons and forks. And that's why they would go on rinsing and washing their hands. And then eventually it became an obsession with them. Before entering a temple, they would take showers 2 or 3 times to make their bodies pure. But they didn't understand that no matter how many showers they take, a little minute trace of uchishta might still be clinging to their hands. There is divisibility of matter. They didn't know those things. And aside from that, they don't know, or they didn't know, I should say. They didn't know that when they were about to enter the temple, after taking baths several times, if needed, in their stomach there was excreta and all these things. They forgot about this. So this obsession about maintaining physical purity, that may come as a matter of some wrong understanding of spiritual life. So this obstacle has to be given up. And when I came here to assist Swami Vividishananda, who was in charge of this center at that time, he needed an assistant. And then I met a lady who was of my mother's age. She lived next door. And she was a student of Swami Vividishananda. Swami Vividishananda was her teacher. Swami Vividishananda was a saintly monk, but his students were not necessarily saintly. And they followed his orders properly, instruction, then they would have progressed. There is no doubt about it. One day that lady came to our center here and said, Swami, last night, the whole night I meditated on God. Hearing that, I was surprised, because she meditated the whole night. And meditation, if a person learns how to meditate, then within half an hour, that person will have the experience of divinity. Because according to that great sage Patanjali, this meditation consists of these 4 steps. First is pratyahara, that is withdrawing the mind from objects on which the mind is scattered. And then when that has been done, that mind has to be fixed on the object of meditation. An object of meditation has to be something which is holy. That is called dharana. And then if one is capable of performing dharana for 12 seconds uninterrupted, in an uninterrupted way, then that is called dhyana or meditation. See, if that person can meditate for 2 minutes and 24 seconds, then that person will have that experience which is called samadhi. Complete absorption of the mind in divinity. And if a person happens to have that samadhi, that person will not be born again. That person has come to know that person's identity with divinity. Samadhi. And so, if a person knows how to concentrate his or her mind for 28 minutes and 48 seconds, then that person has that experience. And that lady was saying that she had meditated the whole night. That seemed to be an improbable thing. It was not possible. Had she meditated for 28 minutes and 48 seconds, to be exact, then she would have the experience of divinity. She would become spiritually enlightened. That's what Patanjali says. But even in meditation, there are obstacles. And these are the 4 main obstacles: laya, vikshepa, kashaya, and rasasvada. Because I have to tell you a little bit about what we call the Gunas. According to some of our scriptures, in the beginning, of the world, there was Purusha and there was Prakriti. Purusha was pure consciousness, and Prakriti is Mother Nature, so to say. And Prakriti did not have any consciousness. Then Prakriti borrowed some consciousness from Purusha. And as a result of that, she started changing. Why is it called Prakriti or she? Because it is easily seen that it is the mother who gives birth to babies. So Prakriti is responsible for giving birth to this creation, so to say, having been inspired by Purusha, divinity. That's how the idea goes. And this Prakriti is primordial matter, extremely subtle matter. It is composed of 3 Gunas. Guna means a rope in Sanskrit. It is like a rope which has been made by 3 thinner ropes and each of these thin ropes is called a guna. These 3 ropes are like so many siblings. They are made into a single rope, but each one wants to manifest, subduing the other 2. And one is sattva, another is rajas, the other one is tama. And we are a combination of these 3 gunas. Because we have evolved from Mother Nature or Prakriti. We have a little consciousness, which is of course borrowed from Purusha. And so, when we have sattva guna preponderant in us, then our minds become calm and serene and meditative. And when rajas becomes preponderant, then our minds become restless. It wants to dominate over others. It wants to become very active, restless. And when the tama becomes preponderant in us, in our body and mind, then there is lethargy. Lethargy comes, lethargy in body and mind. When the mind becomes lethargic, it cannot understand things clearly. It will be sleepy. And all foolish things will be done by the person who occupies such a mind. And these 3 things, the gunas, they are wrestling with one another all the time. And each one tries to be prominent. So that's why sometimes sattva guna becomes preponderant, sometimes rajoguna, and sometimes tamoguna. So while trying to meditate or do spiritual practice, a person wants to control his or her mind. Then when the mind is in a state of tamas, that means lethargy is there, then that person will be sleepy. So that is an obstacle which comes to any person who wants to control his or her mind. Tamoguna has become preponderant. Then one will feel sleepy. In France, one of our Swamis used to work, and one day, one member of that Vedanta center came to the Swami and said, that person was very elated. Said, Swami, I had samadhi last night. Oh, I had such peace. On inquiry, the Swami understood that what that person had was not samadhi, but laya, that obstacle. That sleep can be very refreshing. And that person thought that that laya, which is an obstacle to meditation, that was samadhi. And when the Swami explained that to that person, the person left the center and never came again. So that is laya. That's obstacle. And sometimes the mind becomes very disturbed because Rajoguna has become preponderant. And one has to learn to control that mind. The mind will start going here and there. Then how to do it? The person who has such a mind will say, okay, let my mind go wherever it wants. I will watch it. Then if he or she watches that mind, then that mind after a while becomes calm and quiet and fit for meditation. That means Sattva-guna becomes preponderant. And sometimes there is great reluctance to meditate also. And that is in Sanskrit called koshaya. And meditation becomes most distasteful. So the advice is that even though this appears distasteful, you try to think of the saints, if possible, how they had calmed their minds and how they had acquired samadhi. And gradually the mind will get rid of that situation, koshaya. And then there is a fourth state which the mind goes through. This is an obstacle. It's called rasaswada. That is tasting something delicious. That is, after doing some spiritual practice such as meditation, trying to do that, a person may have some very enjoyable experience and wants to stick to it and doesn't go further ahead. Because this is an obstacle to samadhi. So an example is given, an analogy. That is, a woodcutter was there in a village. He used to go to the forest and cut some trees and bring the wood, by selling which he would maintain his family. One day a holy man came there and said, you go further ahead, then you will get more money. And this man, the woodcutter, obeyed that holy man. Then the holy man went away. Wandering holy man he was. And then he was cutting wood, but he went further ahead. Then he found a forest of sandalwood trees. So he was very happy. Sandalwood is considered very expensive. she cut some sandalwood trees and brought the sandalwood and sold that and got much more money. He was happy. Then after a while, he met that holy man again when the wandering holy man came again. The holy man, he said to the holy man, I followed your advice and I found a forest of sandalwood trees. That's why my financial conditions become better. The holy man said, no, go further ahead, don't stop there. Then he obeyed that holy man and went further ahead. And then he found a copper mine. He bought some copper and sold and got more money. Then that thought came, the holy man had asked me to go ahead. He didn't ask me to stop. So he went further ahead. Then he found a silver mine. He became richer by bringing silver ore and selling that. And then he went, eventually he went ahead and found a diamond mine. Then he became awfully rich. So also in spiritual life, one should keep on going, and not get stuck like that woodcutter before reaching the diamond mine. Other than that, there are other obstacles also which are encountered. They are 5 in number: avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha and abhinivesha. Avidya, that is, this is an obstacle. We are divine, that's what our scriptures teach us, but we don't experience that. And so we forget that we are divinity. That is an obstacle. We have to remember it and try to manifest that divinity. How? Well, by getting rid of our ego. Because the owner and the object owned cannot be the same. I own my physical body and my senses and my motor organs. That's why as the owner of all these things, I must be different from them. What about my mind? I own my mind also. So as the owner of my mind, I have to be different from my mind. But somehow something has happened. The idea of my individual existence is centered in a thought of my conscious mind. And that thought is I, or ego. It is in the mind. If I am not my mind, then how can I be my ego? I can be my ego because I don't know that I am beyond mind. And what is beyond mind is divinity. So, forgetting that, I go on identifying with my mind. That is called asmita. That is an obstacle. We should try to get rid of that. That's why in our Ramakrishna Order, some elderly Swamis said to a young novitiate monk, you have come and joined the Ramakrishna mission. It is actually not Ramakrishna mission, it is Ramakrishna machine, the ego-crushing machine. Having been in this order, gradually you will be able to crush your false ego. And when that false ego is gone, then only divinity will remain. So that is the purpose. To experience divinity, you have joined the order. And then there is a raga. there is some obsessive attachment to objects of the senses that diverts the mind and focuses somewhere else. And dvesha, if some obstacle is posed when we are trying to satisfy our sense pleasures, then dvesha comes. Animosity toward that person who creates that obstacle, or toward that situation which creates that obstacle. And the fifth one is abhinivesha, obsessive love of ourselves. There is a story that there is an elderly woman who used to go and collect windfalls from the forest and would sell them and would earn a little money. And one day there was a big storm, as a result of which there were many windfalls in the forest. She went and found so many fallen branches of trees, etc. And she made a huge bundle with those fallen branches, thinking that had she taken that load home, she would earn so much more money. But she was an elderly woman. She tried to pick up that bundle which she had made. She could not pick it up because it was too heavy for her. She tried a few times, but she did not succeed. And then, out of disgust, she said, and in Hinduism, there is a after departure we go to, as many of us go to the other world, and in ancient times they used to think that there is a king of that world. His name is Yama. So that lady prayed to Yama, please take me away from this world. This world is suffering for me. And then strangely Yama appeared there and said, here I am, come with me. That means you give up your body, come with me. And that lady, seeing Yama, said, no, I don't want to give up my body. I want to cling to my body and go on living. So she said to Yama, Yama, I asked you to come to pick up this bundle of wood and put it on my back. That's why I called you. This is called abhinivesha. Abhinivesha. So these are the obstacles. And other than that, we have other obstacles also, such as craving for name, fame, power and position. And the monks of our order, they're asked to get rid of all of them, name, fame, power and position. Because our order is called Ramakrishna Mission, or that means Ramakrishna ego crushing machine, as was told by that elderly monk to a junior novitiate monk. That's why in India we would not care for name, fame, power and position. But after I had been sent to this order to serve the children of God in this country, on invitation I had to go to different places and give spiritual talks. So in Canada there is a city called Calgary, and there is a Vedanta group there. They invited me, and there is a Calgary University, and the professor of religion in that university became interested in the monks of the Ramakrishna Order. So he would invite any Swami of our order who would go there. So he invited me to give a lecture in his university. Then he asked me, please give me your biodata. Biodata means who you are, what's your name, when you were born, what are your educational qualifications and all these things. Such data he wanted. But that is against our line of thinking as monks of the Ramakrishna Order. So I said, no, it don't give biodata. He said, no, there is another Swami of your order. He came, he gave me his biodata. His name is Swami Shraddhananda. I knew Swami Shraddhananda, he was much senior to me, and he was in charge of the Vedanta Center in Sacramento in California. So when I came back, I told Swami Shraddhananda, how could you give a biodata? I don't even know how to give it, and it is not done in our order. In our orders, originally some books were published, written by some Swamis, and they didn't even put their own names as authors. They didn't want name, fame, power, or position. Then Swami Shraddhananda said, but it is in a different country we are working, so you have to give biodata. So he taught me how to construct my biodata. That's why some books I was obliged to write here on Vedanta or Hinduism. There I had to give my biodata at the end of the book. So ego should be crushed. That is a teaching. And one man once came to Sri Ramakrishna and said, what is the goal of human life? Sri Ramakrishna, without hesitating for even a moment, said, the goal of human life is to experience divinity. But how to do it, that man asked. He said, by chanting the holy name of God most of the time, or all the time, and having holy company of others who are trying to do that. So he said that's how we can have the experience of divinity. Holy company means the company of divine incarnations or genuine saints. We should read about them if they are not alive. And also it is mentioned that there are 4 obstacles which are encountered by those who try to lead spiritual lives. One is dukkha, that means grief. Another one is despair, durmanasya. Another one is involuntary nervous trembling of the body, anga mejayatva. And then irregular breathing, sasa prasasa vikshepa. These 4 obstacles one may encounter. There will be some sadness, grief. The mind will become depressed. There will be despair also. An involuntary trembling of the body. And irregular breathing will be there also. There is a disease called clinical depression. And when that happens, then the person suffers from sadness, grief, despair, etc. For that, some medical treatment has to be taken. And aside from that, there is that obstacle which is temptation. In Gautama Buddha's life, Gautama Buddha is considered a divine incarnation. In his life we read that he was being tempted by Mara. Mara is that evil person to have sensual pleasures, etc., and money. And that is, such temptation may come, and one spiritual aspirant has to learn to get rid of such temptation. And aside from that, there can be intense fear also. It's called Bhaya Bhairava in Sanskrit. So one should not succumb to these things. One should hold on to the examples set by all these exemplary spiritual souls who are divine incarnations. So this is how we can overcome some obstacles in our spiritual life. All these obstacles come to our minds because a person is more his or her mind than anything else. Because the person identifies with the mind. Because the person has an ego. That ego is a thought of the conscious mind. As long as a person has the sense of I, that ego is there. One should learn to get rid of that ego. That's why Sri Ramakrishna taught, Nahang, nahang, tuhu, tuhu. Not I, but thou. That means, God, you are everything. That means, get rid of your ego. That's why properly Swami Vivekananda named our order Ramakrishna Mission, and it was interpreted by that humorous elderly Swami as Ramakrishna machine. What kind of machine? Ego-crushing machine. We should crush our ego. And when the ego is gone, then what remains is divinity. All obstacles have been overcome. And Swami Vivekananda also said that God is unselfishness itself. There is no ego in God. Let us remember that. And then let us go on proceeding along the path of spiritual practice. Thank you very much.